balance of trade, and then you think that the stock market, $80 billion a year, are flowing out of the New York stock market into the Hong Kong stock market. People are getting their money out of the United States as fast as possible, so when it crashes, their money doesn't get caught in the United States. And that causes acceleration of the whole process. If you're hemorrhaging, I've been working in an emergency room as a nurse. I used to work for years in the emergency room as I was going to school. If you have a hemorrhage, you might have a live person now, but you don't stop that hemorrhage, you have a dead person in a few minutes. You understand? You don't stop hemorrhages, it's certain death. And we have a hemorrhage going on in North America, in the United States, and we not only that, don't have any blood of our own. It's all foreign blood. You know what I mean? If I count blood as money. It's all owned by a foreign debt. So therefore, what we have then is a condition where others own the economy. We're printing money, which devaluates a little bit that we have. And very soon, when that collapses, it causes a worldwide collapse. That's only one factor. That's the economic side. Let's look at the demographic explosion. The world is growing by 100 million people a year, approximately. Everybody knows I can't continue. In less than 20 years, approximately 5 years ago, there was a conference held, and they said that we had 20 years left of drinking water. In about 20 years, that was 5 years ago, and about 15 years from now, it is expected that clean drinking water will not be available for the majority of the world's population. Even rainwater will be poisonous. And therefore, those who drink it are cutting down, are drinking poison. And so therefore they're saying, what are we going to do? You have to bottled water everywhere? And we're used to buying bottled water a lot, but then you have to have money to buy bottled water. And most people in the world cannot afford to buy bottled water. Some of them, as you know, drink from the rivers, right? In Georgetown, Guyana, there's these people that live along the street, and there's these big old, ditches along the side of the road with all this big water that run off. Because Georgetown is lower than the ocean. So they have to have all these dikes that the Dutch people did great in Guyana. I mean, they know how to conquer the ocean. When the Dutch used to rule Guyana, they expanded Guyana way out into the ocean about 1.5 miles. When the British came along, they lost it all. Because the British don't know anything about dikes. The Dutch, that's their specialty. And so we lost all that 1.5 miles back again, and it became British Guyana. And then I find it just became Guyana. But since it's lower, we have dikes. We have to, when the ocean goes down, then they let all the water out, and then it runs back in, and they have to close off the dikes and so on. However, because of that situation with water and the population growth, it is becoming critical that only the countries that actually have access to money can afford to buy the water that's drinkable, and the majority that don't, they will not be able to. The people that live along the streets in Guyana, I've seen those guys, they live along the street, they just drink the water right out of the ditches. I thought, man, if any one of us would drink that water, we would be in instant agony. I mean, it is so filled with trash, but somehow their system, they die young, they have diseases on their skin diseases, they have everything, but somehow they're able to drink dirty water, but it has its toll. You eventually die young because you pick up all kinds of diseases, but somehow they're able to survive. Well, who knows, they don't even have bathrooms they can go in. They go in the bushes and stuff, and that just runs back into the thing again. So you understand the difficult situation is lack of hygiene. So water is a situation that in the next 15 years is expected to not be enough for drinking. Then let's look at the food problem. The changes in the changes in the environment are causing difficulties in raising food. Rain, temperatures, the global warming issue that many people argue about. It was an interesting argument. One of the famous evangelical preachers, I think it was Pat Robertson, was on TV the other day, and we heard him. My wife and I heard him say that the global warming is all fake. There's nothing to it. But the reasoning behind it was interesting. You know what the reasoning was? He said it has to be fake, because everybody knows Jesus is going to come to earth and reign for 1,000 years. And if global warming is true, the earth won't last another 1,000 years. So therefore it has to be fake. That's a good reasoning, don't you think? In other words, this is the way I believe in theology, so therefore we're going to reinterpret all of science to explain it in light of what we believe. But the truth is, there is global warming. And for whatever reasons, there is some changes. And they're happening. Now, there can be argument about why, whether we can affect it, whether really we're causing all of it, or whether it's caused, if it's caused by human factors or not. Those things are arguable. But is the temperature on the average changing? Yes. Is it causing differences and increases in hurricanes and typhoons? Yes. They're getting more severe. What about rainfall? It's affecting rainfall in different places. Terrible rain in some and dryness in another. The environment is changing, and it's not so much about global warming as it is there are severe changes in the environment happening today that is complicating our ability to predict weather, to grow food, and so on. And it's only getting worse. And it's going to affect, as we near the end of time, population is increasing, the food needs are increasing, and our ability to raise food, to a certain extent, is decreasing. It's getting more complicated, in other words. So therefore, they're seeing a rise in natural disasters, demographic problems, water problems, economic problems. Those scientists went through about 10 different factors. All of them are converging at the same time. Okay? Now, there's one thing they did not discuss. Spiritual things that are happening. We as Seventh-day Adventists have believed that someday soon, North America, thinking about the United States, I keep thinking Canada is North America too, but the United States will speak as a dragon. Have we taught that? I would like to propose to you, especially from those that live overseas, those of us that are in Canada and live in South America, we look at the United States from outside. When you live inside, you don't see yourself in a mirror when you're living inside. But when you live a long ways away and you look back, you can see things that are different than you could if you're living inside. And those of us that live in South America have been watching North America for a long time, the United States, and I would like to propose to you that the United States already is speaking like a dragon. Would you agree with that? The use of force, the use of unilateral action, regardless of what the rest of the world says, the use of torture, the elimination of all human rights. For the first time in history, North America is no longer the country of liberty. It is the country where all human rights have been removed. It is now legal, if you're under suspicion, to torture you to death without any responsibility to anybody. They can now execute you without even telling you why. You do not have to have any legal. You don't get to have any legal recourse. You cannot pressure the government. You do not have a right to a lawyer. You do not have a right to privacy. No citizen has a right to privacy anymore in the United States. I think some Canadian citizens have suffered from that in the past too, made the news of just being kidnapped and tortured and in no rights to come back. I would like to propose to you that the fulfillment of prophecy is already in place. Rome and North America are not holding hands. They're in bed together. Rome pretty well runs North America. And the legal advisor to this administration, before he even went to the White House after he was elected, was already named, and it was a Catholic priest. And God has the world full of wonderful Catholic people. In fact, some of my favorite people that help me the most are Catholics. I'm in love with Catholic people. But Rome, as Romanism and as a system, is working very, very hard to try to seize control of North America. And as things are going to place with the new change in the Vatican administration and the Pope, the new way of doing things, using force, being willing to use aggression in order to enforce its way, with North America doing the very same thing, willing to do anything necessary to be able to accomplish its goal. That there is evidence that North America is arguable. Many people have both sides, but there's a growing amount of evidence to show that it wasn't strictly just a terrorist event that happened. that there's relationships involved in it. It's all complicated. It's all nebulous, but it's not in black and white anymore. It's not so much an issue that everybody can take for granted. The North American people in the world have been told a story that is hard to believe. And what the real story is, only eternity will tell. But the reality is that we no longer live in a free world. And as we look at that, the scenario is built on a spiritual basis that things are ripe for the last final events on a spiritual scale. Now,